In this episode, I'm going to cover launching the debugging process for GXT. I'll start off by launching the GXT dev mode, then I'll set a breakpoint in both the IDE, then I'll set it in the Chrome DevTools. So to get started, I'm going to go to my IDE. In this case, I'm using Eclipse, but the same process could be had in IntelliJ IDEA. So once I've got to Eclipse, I'm going to go up and check to see if I've launched it already, which I did in the previous episode, so I could go up to the icon for debugging. Once I'm into the icon, I can see the shortcuts that are already created. But let's say I didn't have a shortcut that was already created. So I'm going to go debug as configurations and delete them by default. So I'm going to delete the Chrome shortcut, and then I'm going to delete the GXT dev mode shortcut, and I'm going to select delete, yes. So now it looks like I have no shortcuts for launching the process. So how would I create one of those shortcuts? So I go up here on the project, select it, and then I'll right click on it and go down to debug as, and then I'll select GXT development mode with Jetty, and this will launch the debugging process and create the shortcut. So I'm going to do that. So if I go back up to the debug icon, you can see that launch process is here. So if I go to debug configurations, I can edit the server arguments, the GXT arguments, and both the program arguments and the VM arguments. I'll come back to this in the future episode and cover more of the details of how you can adjust these arguments. So once I'm done, I'm going to close. I've started the debugging process. If you looked, you can see the output is in the console, which shows the code server started up and pushed the contents to the working directory. And then I'm going to look at the GXT development mode. It has the shortcut to launch it. Well, on the first time I launch it, I'm going to right click and go open with SDBG Chrome JS Debugger. What this does will connect Chrome with the IDE and allow me to set breakpoints in the IDE. So once I've done with that, I'm going to click open, and it launches the Chrome debugger. Now that I have Chrome open, let me stop the process and repeat it, just to show you what it would be like to repeat the process. So I'm going to exit Chrome. Then I'm going to go to the debug perspective. Debug perspective, it shows the processes that are running, so I'm going to minimize that. It shows the GXT development mode and Chrome JS Debugger. So I'm going to stop this and stop the GXT development mode. So if I wanted to launch again, I'm going to go up to the debug icon, drop down to my favorite shortcut. This is the GXT development mode with Jetty server. I'm going to launch that. It will automatically launch the Chrome JS Debugger this time. Once the process is started, I can see that it focused on the development mode, which I'm ready to double click now. This time I'll double click instead of selecting the menu like before. I'll go double click, 1, 2, and it will quickly open Chrome this time. So now I want to show what it's like to set a breakpoint in the IDE and show how it breaks. So let me go back to the IDE. I'm going to go to the Java perspective, and I'm going to double click over here on the left, right where it says root panel. That will add a breakpoint, and you can toggle it as well here. Up here you have skip breakpoints. If I wanted to skip it, I could select skip all breakpoints, and it gets a slash through it. But I don't want to slash through it at this time. I'm going to go back to the Chrome debugger and refresh. Okay, there's my break. The process paused on rootpanel.get. Well, I could look at the stack up above and inspect it. Now, if you look at the stack, you can see where it paused on the stack. Some of this is going to be JavaScript looking, so you have to do a little bit of investigation to figure out which variables are. So if I look over to the right, I'm going to look at the button. You can see the button has underscore 0 underscore. Well, the little bit at the end is part of the GXT compiler process, and I won't cover that. But what's important is you can read the name and compare the name down here. So if I wanted to expand the button, I can see what attributes it has set for it. And I can also see the HTML output or the toString output by selecting it. Well, that's the basics of setting a breakpoint here. What if I continued? What I want to do is remove the previous breakpoint with a double click. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add GXT Debugger, And this is the same as saying JavaScript Debugger, or just debugger in JavaScript. So once I've set that, I'm going to go back to Chrome, and I'm going to open up the Chrome DevTools by going Settings, More Tools, Developer Tools, and this will open up the DevTools on the right, and the app is on the left. Now that it's ready, I'm going to reload it, and there I go. There's the JavaScript Debugger, and it paused while debugging on this GXT debugger. So the way I got it was adding GXT debugger. If I go back to Chrome, it added debugger. Well, you can see that I don't have source maps open at this time. So if I went like this, went to settings, and then enable JavaScript source maps, and then let me reload it and show you the difference. Okay, there it is, JavaScript Debugger. Well, if you come and you don't see the source maps, check your settings by going to settings and enable source maps, JavaScript source maps. So now that I'm done, I'm going to hit continue. And one thing to keep in mind that's very important in the process, if you have the DevTools open, you will not be able to do a breakpoint and pause in here in the JavaScript editor in the IDE. But if you close the DevTools and I'm gonna reload the page, it'll marshal the breakpoint. And sometimes it takes a moment to get the marshalling back. So second refresh did it. So I can see that the break is on the GXT debugger. So this concludes launching the GXT debugging process and setting a breakpoint. Thanks for watching today. Follow me for more tips and tricks on GXT, and I'll catch you later.